Dive into the crisp, clear world of VHS hi-fi sound. Ever wondered how those old tapes hold up against today's digital clarity? Let's rewind time and uncover the magic of VHS hi-fi audio. Quality that just might surprise you. Today I'm going to show you VHS hi-fi sound. We're going to look at hi-fi sound. I mean, we might even hear some at the end. But there's a lot of confusion around. So this is a video I've made just for you. Coming up. Hi-Fi VHS Tape 2. Take 2. Do you like that one? No. Well, whatever. I've been watching some stuff about VHS Hi-Fi, and everybody's raving about it. And as you know, I did a video about it a little while ago, where I raved about it, and it is raveable. But there are people getting confused about things, and I just thought I'd like to address it and put a couple of things into perspective from my point of view. Bearing in mind I'm using a PAL or stroke CCAM video recorder, and things are not necessarily the same all over the world. However, the important bits are. So let's get stuck into it. This is a VHS machine with the tape loaded. You can see there it's got a beautiful MRAP. That's the way it should be, and that's the way it starts. So let's have a look at this. We'll start it loading up and moving in a second or two. So this is real-time loading. You can see it doesn't take very long. So we'll have another look. What you're seeing here is the head drum is starting to spin. Then the tape is pulled out and round the head drum and round the other heads. And then the pinch roller goes onto the capstan. Now let's look at that from another angle. So you can see here, pulls it out and everything's into place. It's magic the way it does it. Looking on here, just when you see that the actual head drum, that's the thing with the yellow arrow, is rotating. And now we need to look at the way the actual drum is loaded. Now this is called an MRAP. So you see here, this is a guide, and that's the guide, and that's pulled the tape all the way up to there. You see it's well past the halfway point on the drum. Well past the halfway point on the drum, which means that two heads, just like that, there's be equal opposites to those. And here you can see what's inside the drum. You've got two heads and two heads. Whilst we're in there, let's just have a look at this. This and this. This is two sides of a transformer. Now, this is the way the heads are connected to the rest of the machine. There's the wires, and that's the way it goes. They will both be in contact at the same time. So there'll be heads on both sides of the drum in contact at the same time. And that's the most important thing. And just for completeness, this is what a VHS head can look like. Why is that the most important thing? Well, I'll tell you, one of the reasons is because it's just the way it works. No, seriously. The reason it's important is because the signal, if you think about it, the heads are coming into contact with the tape and then disappearing off the tape again. So you need to have the signal coming off there consistently. The way they do that is they have an overlap period. There's a point at which both heads are connected to the tape, they're both doing their thing, and they're both sending the signals out. So all you have to do then is decide which head you want to use, and you switch between the two. And that's the way it works. Now, what I will point out here, though, is that TV is a standard. So you've got NTSC, PAL are TV standards, along with CCAM. But what you basically got is you've got a 60 frames, and you've got a 50 frames, which works out at 25 fields and 30 fields, roughly, each. So what you have to do, because TV is interlaced, so what you have is you have two fields. They scan the picture twice. So you've got half of 525, 262.5 lines. And so they do that twice in the 60 cycles, and it gives you your 525. In the PAL and CCAM regions, you've got 625 lines, and half of that is 312.5 lines. So just a couple more lines, but the basic thing is it's the same picture put onto the screen twice in both NTSC and PAL. So no difference there as far as the mechanics are concerned. The only difference is the speed of the drum. Now the drum for NTSC is running at 1800 RPM. I've heard some people say approximately. Well, when we say approximately, it's pretty damn close. It doesn't vary. Whatever it runs at, it's the same. With PAL, it's 1500 RPM. So that's it. No variation. Because that variation will give you line slippage and frame slippage and all sorts of things. It's a real problem. And that's one of the reasons why VHS Hi-Fi is very good. The drum has to be constantly spinning at the correct speed. We can't have variations, and you don't want variations. And that's the way it works. The confusion I've been referring to is that the SP, LP and ELP, or whatever they want to call it, wherever it's being sold, which is the really slow speed, the fact is that the linear tape speed has no effect on the speed of the drum. Now, the drum is what's putting the sound on with the VHS Hi-Fi, and so it doesn't care how fast the tape is actually going, except for one thing. The bits will be closer together. The tape tracks will be closer together, and in fact with VHS Hi-Fi the sound overlaps the picture anyway, but when you go into really long speeds, because it's so slow, the picture fields will be overlapping each other, and that's why you get the muzzy picture. That brings us to the interesting bit on VHS Hi-Fi. How does it actually work? Quite simply, the tracks are laid on in the normal way for the video, and then the audio tracks are laid on using a signal, and it's what they call depth modulation. So it's a lower frequency signal than the video signal, but it's a constant signal, and it burrows its way into the tape effectively. And because of the azimuth of the heads, that's the angle at which they sweep the tape, the two signals are effectively barred from each other. They pick up a bit of each other, but they're not enough to worry about. You get a big signal of what you want and a tiny little bit of crosstalk. And that's how the actual VHS sound is put on the VHS Hi-Fi. So let's have a look at this signal. The sound is modulated onto an RF carrier, which is then recorded onto the tape. It's 150 kilohertz, which is quite low in terms of video, but it's 150 kilohertz, and it's not AM modulated. This is an AM signal. This is actually put on as an FM signal, and I'll tell you about that. With an AM signal, it makes the carrier bigger and smaller as the signal gets bigger and smaller. Trouble with that is that it can actually disappear. You hear about people trying to DX AM stations in the States, or listening to Radio Luxembourg in the UK, with the signal getting louder and quieter as they're listening to it. So with frequency modulation, what you do is you have the carrier signal made a higher and a lower frequency, but it always remains the same height as the signal of the audio is put on it. So you don't get the rising and lowering of the volume, you just get an increase and a decrease in the noise. And as always, here's a demonstration so you can actually hear what I'm talking about. This is of course using a radio, but this system is the same FM and AM, and the symptoms are the same. So this is what would be the problem.
Only arrested Nicola's father. Joe Shane. There was and remains no evidence of anyone.
Will be playing tonight. Edison. Bernard. Serena here.
Retaliate over Saturday. And in sport, Manchester City and Arsenal are attempting to knock out Samara Young.
These signals are ridiculously weak, but what you can hear is that they're either there or they're not. And if they're there, they sound alright. And they disappear into a hiss before they get interference.
The sound of Southwest London.
And so what all that means is, quite simply, that when you're playing back the tape, the drum is spinning and it's always tracking at the same speed. So when you slow down the tape, the drum is still spinning at the same speed. So the tape is still being recorded in exactly the same way. So the up and down of it is, it doesn't matter how fast or how slow the tape is moving from one reel to the other, the drum is doing its thing. And whilst the video will actually get a little bit muzzy because it will actually interfere with itself, the audio isn't going to be affected because it isn't as sensitive to that sort of thing. So you will actually get proper hi-fi sound off. And anyway, the picture only goes muzzy because one set of pictures interferes with the other. With the audio, it doesn't interfere with itself. It sort of, where one stops, the other one starts, and so there isn't the same sort of problem. And because it's FM modulated, if there is a drop in the signal, which is what you get by overlapping them, it doesn't make any real difference. The thing will still work. What you will get is a slight increase in noise. And what they do is they monitor that, and if the noise gets too big, they switch over to the linear tracks, that's the tapes that are recorded on the side, to stop you getting the sort of effect. But it's not perfect. And what you have to remember is with EP and the other variations, so standard play, you get good tracking and you normally get good sound and everything is fine. With EP and LP, you're running at half speed or 1/3 speed, and with that you will get tracking problems, and that can't be helped. That's just a physical thing. And also, if your tapes have been unfortunate in the way they've been stored, that you'll have problems. This is what a frequency response graph looks like for VHS Hi-Fi, and this is what silence looks like, comparing it to a good Type 2 passive. A quick tip, a freebie for you: if you're going to do any sort of copying or using of a VHS tape or any other videotape that's been sat around for a while, obviously make sure it hasn't got mould on it, but make sure you rewind and fast forward it a couple of times. Give it a chance to relax, because it's been sat there for a long time, and if you think about it, anything that's been coiled up for a long time isn't very happy to uncoil. So give it a fair chance, give it a rewind and fast forward, and possibly even a play or two before you try and do anything serious with it, and that way you'll get the best results. Anyway, I hope you've got something from this. If you have, then maybe you'd like to subscribe and possibly even give us a like. It doesn't cost you anything, it just makes it easier for the channel to get around. And anyway, I'll catch you another time. See you later. Bye.